Hey guys, this is Anon, and today I'm going to work through some gameplay of the very odd Tier 9 German tank destroyer, the Waffenträger PZ4. It's a very, very odd tank. For any of you that have played it, you know that if you're running the largest gun on it, it has this really, really odd kind of variable gun depression elevation thing that happens as you turn your turret around the tank. It's great that it has the full turret, but it has very poor gun depression, but fantastic elevation off the front, and it kind of grades itself down along the side to the back where it has very, very poor gun elevation, but has fantastic gun depression. So it's really makes it kind of an expert level tank, and it takes a little bit of getting used to kind of learn how to use the angles on this tank. But once you do, it's really, really fantastic. I enjoy the tank a lot. I had a good time getting through my 100 battles in it. It took me a while to ace, even though I had extremely high average damage. It was just a really high bar because top level players are able to do some really great things with it, because it may have very poor armor like this whole tank destroyer line does, but that the variables and the odd angles that you can put your gun at let you keep it very, very hidden if you're doing a good job with it. And especially like you can see I'm doing here, running binocs and camo net, you can really do some great sniping things like that right there. The PZ4 really deletes IS-3s a lot. I have a ton of ammo racks of IS-3s with it. It's just that high caliber gun through the front makes ammo racks explode quite a bit. So anyway, so being here on Canal, I've clearly perched up here to snipe right off the bat. This is very, very much a sniping tank. I don't like to have it in the front line at all. You can play it in the second line a little bit, but it's really not where this tank shines. It's really fairly accurate for the size of the shell, so I find that keeping it kind of out of harm's way is its best bet. You can use the angles kind of in the later game to work your way forward, but definitely kind of depending on your team early on. So you can see I'm just looking for shots. I'm keeping an eye on both ends. And finally, when it's clear I'm not going to have any more shots, and we're starting to do pretty well, we're up several tanks, I decide to go ahead and start pushing forward. I stopped there for a second to see the T95, but instead, and here I kind of noob out. I slide down sideways, pop my heel so fast that it hurts my tracks again on the way down, so I actually have to use... I didn't have to, but I went ahead and used both repair kits because I really wanted to move forward. I was kind of worried about how my team is spread out and the tanks that are left, that this battle's a little bit closer than it necessarily looks on paper, or at least on the scoreboard. So unfortunately went and burned that, and it was a good decision because now we're only up by one tank, and this Jagdtiger that I'm passing is very low health. So trying to see here if I can get any nice shots on this STI, and you can see where that the gun is kind of funky with that. When I'm sideways, I had to go ahead and angle my tank forward because I didn't have enough elevation to get the gun up to him. So it's very, very strange. So I know the T95 is on this side, and I'm assuming the T28 that's alive also is, because we haven't seen him yet, and he's been kind of ripping through tanks as well. So I'm just working my way up here, hoping to get some side shots on one of them, and luckily that T95 does pop up. Go ahead and switch to the heat. I wait for that camo to pop in because I really would prefer not to get spotted. When I take that shot, it works out great. I don't get spotted. Hoping to go ahead and take the second shot here and get rid of him, but he does a good job of sneaking up into cover, so that's not necessarily going to work. So I'm just kind of waiting if he backs up, and since he doesn't, again, I'm going to keep moving forward here. We're down to the point now where we've got 3 tank destroyers, and my 2 teammates are on fairly low health, so I'm actually going to have to take on kind of a spotting role here, just doing it very carefully. The T28 does pop up to my right, but it's clear he doesn't see me, so that's why I'm trying to get the STI shot first, because he's a little more dangerous. I'm not terribly concerned about a T28 at this point, even though now they've kind of whittled us down. You'll find yourself driving backwards a lot in this tank. I do it here because if he rolls backwards, I want to make sure I can get my gun on him, but he doesn't really, so it lets me go ahead and swing around, because now I need that elevation because I'm looking at some funky angles. So like I said, it just takes some weird kind of getting used to with that gun. I would say it took me probably 20 or 30 battles to really get comfortable with how the gun handling is on the tank, but once you do, you can really do some great things with the gun. So I was hoping just to poke out and get the back of the T-95, but since he's clearly staring right at me, I'm hoping to bait a shot into my front like that. I'm willing to take the hit because it's unlikely I'm going to get ammo wrecked. It is worth the ability to trade a shot there because I know that STI is very, very low health. And that's why I would go ahead and load up the HE. Ammo selection is another thing that's really important with this tank. You have to fire a lot of heat. HE does a great job, so you just need to make sure you're choosing the right ammo for the time. And so once my camo resets, I'm able to roll out and go ahead and get that kill to finish it off. So yeah, I think that's why it's such an expert level tank. There's so many variables with this tank you have to keep in mind with the weird gun handling and the ammo selection as well. I mean, you're really having to process quite a bit of information besides just having good map awareness because you're an HE magnet and tanks know to instantly switch to HE to shoot at you. So it's just a lot to keep kind of in mind as you're working. Okay, so switching now to Castilla is a very different kind of battle that's going to happen here. And obviously I always like to show a little variety if I can. So I'm like I talked about in the other video, I always want to start in kind of a sniping situation. So I'm going to roll up this pretty standard sniping hill. But just looking at the makeup of their team, I think there's a fairly decent chance they flank instead of going to mill, which is okay. It's just that you have to be aware of it, and that's where the kind of those binocs and camo net come in handy. This tank destroyer line is one of the few I run that pair on, but it works really, really well for him. So I'm setting up there, but as soon as that stuff kicks on, I know if anything pops up at all to my left, I'm going to have to react to it, and which the Leo does right away. And you can see here I'm trying to get my gun on him without turning my hull because that resets the camo. Luckily I'm far enough away that he can't spot me anyway since he was backing up out of the way. But that's just another thing to keep in mind, and that's where it's a little tricky with this tank. When you're sitting up on top of a hill, you got to keep those angles right because you can't necessarily just turn your turret all the way or you could lose your shot. So usually when I'm on a hill like this, I like to point my hull down a little bit instead of being backwards. So I'm using artificial kind of gun depression with the hull because the elevation is so high too. So Leo pops back up, and wow, I have no clue where that shot went. But as soon as I take it, the T-44 gets spotted to my left, and anytime you're on that hill and you get spotted in something with this thin of armor, you need to instantly bail off the hill. And especially now, looking at where my team is, even though that 44 was spotted, I can see all my team behind me actually going the opposite direction. So this flank is all mine. Not going to get any help with it. So I'm just kind of setting up, and you can see now I'm sideways, because once you're sideways you kind of get the best of both worlds. You pick up quite a bit of gun depression, and there's enough elevation to get the job done if I need it. So, but I can point straight down on these tanks. Luckily the RU hasn't really noticed me, so I can go ahead and get that great EGE round in, and that's, like I said, this is where ammo selection is so important. Fire that HE round into the soft target. Now I'm switching to AP because I just want to get a guaranteed hit into this T-44, but unfortunately hit his tracks instead, and that's why it also popped adrenaline. Now I'm worried about it because honestly, if he was a lot of tanks in this situation are going to be able to beat me. But I'm lucky he's running the top gun on this tank that actually has a really slow reload that not many people run. So instead I can take my time and get that HE round to really equalize things a little bit. I want that HE round because it makes him a 2-shot instead of a 3-shot, and that really makes a big difference because now I can keep using this little alcove to protect myself. And there's just a lot of cover right here in this spot, so I can continue to roll back. Luckily they didn't rush me. It's kind of this weird, I have this like half YOLO thing happening here where they're running at me one at a time without fully committing. So the Jagdtiger pops up, so I take that shot even though I've seen something else come up to my left, which is the Pershing. So apparently this is just the parade of tanks where they're going to keep charging me, which is really the last thing you want to happen in this tank. But luckily, like I said, I put myself in just a good situation here to use the terrain and be able to kind of fend them off as they come in. Luckily they aren't, like I said, full rushing, but still this is a bad situation in general when you have these mediums coming at you, so you just have to be careful with it. And so there I'm starting to really pile up the the kills over here on this side of my map. Carcasses everywhere, but I have a pretty good idea that most of the tanks are still up top. So you can see here when I can't get my gun in a certain situation or a certain position like that, I'm just turning my hull essentially towards them so that it gives me my elevation to be able to get the gun up there. I'm just being careful because I don't want to take an unnecessary shot. And then you can also roll up kind of backwards here, which gives me the elevation. It's just very interesting angles. And sorry, here my wife is trying to pick up takeout, so you get a little bonus time in here. Who doesn't love some buffalo wings? Anyway, the Leo now looks like he's going to be the next one to charge at me, and this is about the time too. I'm noticing that I have 4 kills and know where all the tanks are, so I have this outside hope of maybe picking up a Rossini, especially once I'm able to sneak that shot in, but that Jagdtiger is so far away, it's not super likely. I'm just trying to do the best I can with it. So the Leo's popping in and out. I go ahead and take a look here at the Yeg because that was, if I was going to be able to pick up the Rossini, I was going to be right there. Just to see if he rolls back enough, but now it's clear that he's not, so I need to go ahead and charge this Leo. I've got plenty of health, but you don't want to fool with him too much. The traverse is good enough on this, it's pretty hard to circle, but if he got in nice and close, he'd possibly be able to get lucky and get the kill in here, so instead I can switch to AP for that nice shot. AP over HE there because I don't need the alpha of the HE, and it's not going to hit tracks and kind of dissolve that shell. So another good example, like I said, just odd tank to play, very expert level, but once you figure it out, I really enjoy it and I think it's a good tank. So, as always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to follow on YouTube and follow in on the Twitch streams that are happening about 3 or 4 times a week. So, thanks a lot, guys, and good luck.